Before it starts, I want to say I own none of the story. A friend from Wattpad made this. Follow them on Instagram at Juicefruit. And if you want to read his other stories for yourself, then go to Wattpad and look for it Dangosage for more amazing works. I must warn you now that there will be swearing in this story. I mean, it is Deadpool we are talking about here. Or as I will refer to him to, Mido Pool. You have been warned. Mido Pool Chapter 1. He's probably thinking that I'm really weird. We stared at each other in silence for a few moments until he made an excuse to leave. Well, I must leave now. Stay safe, kid, he said and blasted off into the sky. I stared for a while, wondering what it would be like to have a quirk like that. I then shrugged it off and continued walking toward my apartment. On my way there, I stopped by one of my precious people's houses. It's a girl, her name is Momo Yaorazu. I walked up to her mansion with emotionless eyes. I pressed the intercom button and the butler's voice came through. Hello, who is here and state your business, he said. It's me, Midoriya, I said, and the gates immediately opened. I walked through into the house towards the front door. Once there, the door was opened for me. I walked through and greeted the butler, before navigating my way through the huge mansion. I made it to Momo's room door in 5 minutes. I opened it to see her eating a big pizza. Sup, Momo, I said. So, what are you trying to make now? I asked with a laugh. My phone broke, she said before sparkles started coming from her arm and an iPhone X came out. Matter of fact, my phone broke too, I said and showed her the screen. It's only a crack, she said. Well, it'll help you lose fat, I said and shrugged. She sighed and a second iPhone X came out. Thanks, I said and she smiled. Now, why did you come here? She asked me. Does a guy have a reason to see his girlfriend? I said and she giggled. She stood up and walked over to me and planted a kiss on my lips. She pulled away and noticed my almost completely healed burn marks. She gave me a sad look. Hey, it's not bad, I said, trying to keep her from feeling sad. You said you'd be careful, she said. I know, but what's the point? My quirk is there to help, I said and shrugged. The point is that, it's normal for you because you're the owner of the quirk, but for others, seeing you get stabbed and you not reacting like a normal person. It scares people, she said and looked down. Okay, I'll be careful not to get all that hurt. I can't promise that I won't get hurt though, I said and she hugged me. As we hugged, I felt her breasts press up against my chest. My cheeks immediately became rosy as I thought of a few things smiling face. I felt a tent begin to pitch itself in my pants as we hugged. I lightly pushed her off me, so that the thoughts would leave. So, let's change the subject. Are you still gonna try to get into the UA? I mean your quirk, it isn't exactly a superhero quirk, she said as we got more comfortable on her bed. Come on, how can you say that? My quirk is one of the best fucking quirks alive, I said with a little bit of sadness in my voice. I know, but, it's still, at that moment, I cut her off mid-sentence. Not flashy enough to be a normal hero's quirk, I said as I looked her straight in the eye. After that she kept quiet. Ya know what? I'm leaving, I said as I got up. No, babe, please don't be mad, she said, trying to calm me down. It's fine, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, I said and began to walk away. She watched as I walked away and out the mansion. I turned back to see her staring at me as I walked away. I waved and smiled as I walked off. I kept walking till I reached an area that was sectioned off by the police. I could hear shouts of people saying, "He's gonna die." And, "Why aren't the heroes doing anything?" I decided to walk to the front of the crowd and saw Kachan being attacked by the same monster that attacked me. The heroes seemed to be just standing around, not doing anything. I looked at the police and they were shitting bricks at the fear of Kachan dying. I jumped over the police tape that was there and walked behind one of the heroes who had a sword and took it. "Hey, kid, what are ya doing?" he yelled and tried to grab the sword from me. "I'm saving his ass. What do you think?" I yelled back and spun the sword in my hand before cutting the goop covering his mouth off. With such accuracy, it was scary. The monster tried to grab me, but I jumped to the side with a smile and cut him so he would get off of Kachan's back. I then jumped and did a spin move to cut off the goop on Kachan's head. Kachan looked at me shocked, and so did the police and heroes. This was the ability I was talking about before. See, I mastered this sword easily. I looked at the hero I took it from and handed it back to him. The goop monster began forming again behind me as I did. It tried to attack me, but Kachan used his explosions and blew it to bits. I spat on the floor and wiped my mouth as I moved around. Fuck. My mouth was open. Bad mouth, I said as I wiped it with my sleeve. Later, me and Bakugo sat inside an ambulance van wrapped in blankets. "You poor things, you must be in shock," she said and I smiled. Bakugo held an annoyed face as his mom searched his face for sores. "Are you okay?" she asked and stood back. "Thank you for saving him," she said. "Yeah, sure," I replied. "Are you okay, Midoriya?" she asked. "I'm fine, Miss Bakugo," I said politely. "Just don't get why I'm here." "I mean, I'm completely fine," I said and looked at Katsuki. "Kachan's the one in shock," I said. "Well, I'm just glad you're both okay," she said and smiled. It reminded me of my mom's smile. I shook my head as memories returned. I took off the blanket and turned to the Bakugo family. "Well, I'm getting my candy ass out of here," I said and began walking away. As I walked, numerous doctors and cops tried to stop me. But they eventually let me go. I took my bag from the one cop's car and began to walk to my apartment. "Hey kid, that was some good work back there. How about becoming my pupil? I can teach you stuff," the hero whose sword I took before. He had a smug look on his face which irritated me. "I'd rather look into a loaded gun," I said and he was shocked by my reply. I then stood in thought for a second. "Wait, I think I have done that before," I said and shrugged and began walking. "Are you sure?" he questioned and I turned to face him. "Yes, damn sure. Though you can tell me the name of the person who made your sword," I said with a smile. He looked at me bewildered but still gave me the phone number. After that, I trained for 10 months to prepare for the UA entrance exam. "Kachan, stop being a bitch," I said as he approached. "Shut up, Deku," he said and walked past me. I shook my head and began walking toward the main building of the school. I entered the building as I put on some earphones and listened to music. Salt and pepper. Shoop. I smiled as I sat down next to Kachan. He looked at me before scoffing at my smile. I was about to speak, but the briefing started. As he spoke, I tuned out what he was saying. Until suddenly a blue-haired boy stood and started yelling something, then pointed at me and continued his yelling. He then stopped yelling and gave me a glare. Now everyone was staring at me and I didn't know what to do. Well, fuck you too then, I said and hoped it made sense. The boy flinched and looked outraged before continuing to shout. I sighed and removed my earphones and looked at him with this face. He seemed shocked after and stopped speaking. At least I got your attention, I said and leaned forward. Can we start this exam or what? I asked and everyone seemed shocked. Later. That guy from before just wouldn't shut up about disrespecting all that stuff. But at least now we get to start the exam, I said to you. Others looked at me like I was crazy because I seemed to be talking to no one. You are very disrespectful. You will never be accepted into this school, the boy from before said. I stared at him before blinking once, twice. Whatever the fuck you say, I said and turned around before ripping off my sweats, revealing my red and black suit. Basically like his normal hero suit from the anime, except the green parts are red and the black and white parts are black. He doesn't have that bunny ears thing at the back and that thing to cover his mouth. Everyone turned to look at me in shock. We're supposed to create suits? Someone asked. Suddenly a screen rang and the exam got started. Let's go, I said in a British accent. I ran out into the field and did a front flip over some people. As I did, I pulled out 2 guns and shot 4 robots dead. Everyone stared with huge eyes. I landed and continued my pursuit to kill as many robots as I could. I ran to a crowd of 4 and cut them all in half with one swipe. I jumped up and landed on the one's head while it was still in the air and did a twist flip in the air, pushing the robot's head down and looking badass. I pulled out 2 guns and shot 1, 2, 3 robots before landing. I landed on some guys' backs and pushed them off. He was about to shoot lightning at the robot in front of him, but he missed because I pushed him. I landed on the shoulders of the robot and stabbed both my swords into its head. It started to tip and fall. While it did that, I pulled out my guns and shot 4 more. I pulled out my sword from its head and ran into battle once more. I slid under one robot's legs and cut them off before stabbing him through the head. I pulled it out to see that 6 robots were about to gang up on me. Gang banging is not nice, I said as I pulled out my guns as a bunch of guns appeared out of their bodies. Wow, you guys gang bang rough, I said and ran to them. They each shot stun darts. What bullshit is this? I thought these were real bullets. Well, it doesn't matter, I said and ran to them, taking all the stun darts at once. I cut them each in half before removing the stun darts. Remember, I can't be drugged, I said to you guys. I began to run and destroyed more robots, without taking a break. Can't get tired, remember, I said to you. I ran and killed as many as I could, until some sort of big-ass robot showed up. I looked down and saw a girl about to be crushed by the robot. I decided to sprint to her while everyone else ran away. I got my swords ready for the ultimate slash. I jumped and started sliding on my ass as I moved forward and cut the robot's foot clean off. I stopped myself with my shoes before turning and saving the girl. The robot began to fall without its other foot. The girl I saved touched my arm to make me float. I looked at her in shock. I decided to adapt, knowing that she could float made things easier. I threw her into the air and left her floating there. I turned around and ran back to the robot faster than I've ever ran before. I jumped when I reached it and flew all the way to its head. I did another ultimate slash, cutting its head in half. Then doing another ultimate slash and cutting its head off. Suddenly, the girl's floating ability wore off on me and I started falling. I stabbed into the robot's chest to slow down before jumping off and landing safely. Whoa, that was great, I said as everyone stared at me, shocked and amazed, but there was something else there. Fear. What? I asked. The girl I saved gave me a hand sign to look down. Suddenly people began fainting. I looked down to see a huge piece of metal going through my body and arm. Suddenly my arm fell off on its own. Everyone screamed in fear and ran. I pulled out the large piece of metal and picked up my arm before heading home. I threw my old arm into the trash before undressing it to take the spandex for my suit. That stuff's fucking expensive. I changed into normal clothes before heading to meet Amiri. I saw her slippers on the floor and put them on over my socks. She was listening to her favorite TV show on TV with her eyes closed. I walked over and sat down on the couch next to her. Hey Amiri, how's being old treating you? I asked and she looked in the direction of my voice. Just fine Izuku, how's being young treating you? She asked with a smile. Hey, it's fine I guess, I said as I yawned and covered my mouth with my baby arm. Are you tired dear? Amiri asked. No, well maybe, doing those ultimate slashes really takes a lot out of you, I said as I poked her with my baby finger. So, your arm got chopped off huh? I nodded in reply. If you nodded, I wouldn't know, I'm blind remember, she said. Yeah, it got chopped off, I said and rubbed my baby hand on her face. It's so soft, it reminds me of my son when he was a baby, she said and smiled. After that, Amiri and I sat and ate oatmeal while watching her favorite TV show and me describing what's happening on screen. Until she decided to go to sleep. I kicked off her slippers at her front door before walking out the door. I walked until I reached my apartment door, which was literally 2 steps away. I unlocked it and walked in before plopping down on my bed. I lied down and stared at my ceiling before closing my eyes and sleeping. That's chapter 1 of Deadpool complete.